how much I care for you. But you won't know unless you give it a try.
They wanted to do their own things, and then felt like they can just come back together. I mean,
the awful 112 secret Slim had kept hidden for years is finally out, and it's tearing the legacy of the group apart from the inside.
okay, certain groups or whatever don't mind airing all of their business out.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
I feel you.
and they're gonna go and they're gonna just wow.
Slim was asking the court to force Q and Daron to stop using the 112 name entirely. He also wanted monetary damages for every time they had used the name without his permission.
You need to go real big with that apology. Admit exactly what you did. You see what I'm saying? Don't make me do it.
But Q and Daron, they say Slim tricked them, that he pulled the rug from under the group and kept the money and the brand for himself. And what started as a simple disagreement has exploded into one of the messiest, most personal breakups in R&B history. It started as a legal move, but to some, it looked like betrayal. In 2018, Marvin Slim Skandrick, the smooth-voiced frontman of 112, quietly filed paperwork to trademark the group's name. He did it through his company, M3 Productions, Inc. No announcement, no meeting with the other members. Just a simple legal step done in silence. By December 25th, 2018, Slim had locked in the rights to the name 112, officially, legally. On paper, he now owned the identity the group had spent decades building together. The rest of the group, Q Parker and Daron Jones, didn't find out until later, and when they did, it set off a firestorm. At the time, the group was already fractured. There had been internal tensions, lineup changes, and long stretches where members worked solo. But this move? This felt like Slim was cutting them off from the legacy entirely.
I would say in our situation, there was a combination of both sides. You know what I'm saying? Business.
Q and Daron didn't stay quiet. They started booking shows under the 112 name, even though they no longer had the legal rights to use it. They performed. They promoted flyers. They used the brand that made them famous. And Slim, he hit back hard. He filed a federal lawsuit against them, not just one of those low-stakes cease and desist letters, but a full-on legal action. He accused them of trademark infringement, false advertising, and deceptive trade practices. In simple terms, he claimed they were pretending to be part of a group they no longer belonged to, and they were profiting from a name they didn't own. Speaking to Gossip, Slim said, "It breaks my heart to have to engage in a lengthy, costly legal battle against the former members of the group. However, countless promoters and agencies have notified us that Q and Daron and their handlers keep advertising the 112 name, despite knowing we own the mark and have humbly asked them to stop using it." But Q and Daron weren't just going to take the hit. They filed a countersuit, claiming Slim had obtained the trademark through deception. They said they were never informed, never asked to agree, and never expected the group's name, their identity, to be taken right out from under them. Slim didn't flinch. In fact, he took to Instagram with a lengthy post to set the record straight from his perspective. "So much has been said about this," he wrote. "So many opinions during the years about this subject. So many people are asking me questions like, this hasn't been going on for years. For those who are just now learning about this, I will explain on my page one last time." He continued, "I trademarked 112 in 2018, 8 years after it was abandoned. Anyone could have done it. For me, 112 is a priority, so business-wise, it made sense to protect what I risked everything for." Slim claimed that Q and Daron had already left the group. According to him, they were the ones who walked away first. "We were already told by them that because of personnel differences they were done," he said. "I posted their own texts with the dates." He even called out their motives. One former was in the church. Why use a secular name? The other wanted to do solo projects. Why use a brand you walked away from again? To make matters worse, Slim said rumors started flying about him stealing money. And he says those were lies too. Now I was accused of creating a shell and fraud LLC to hide money that was stolen. SMH, he wrote. What y'all don't know is that it has been proven that what they said was a lie. There was no money taken or hidden. It was so easy to prove my case. Their own egos and arrogance solidified it. Slim's lawyer, James Walker, added fuel to the fire with this quote, "Q doesn't seem to understand that he was the Tito of the group, and Slim is the lead singer and owner of the mark. We should not be in court, but for the continued false advertising, breach, infringement, and bad faith of the defendants." Things got uglier when Q reportedly filed for bankruptcy during the legal battle, claiming he had just $1,000 in his bank account. The group that once had platinum plaques and stadium tours was now trading lawsuits and public insults. What had started as a disagreement over direction had become a full-on legal war. And Slim made it clear, if you walk away from 112, don't expect to take the name with you. Before the lawsuits and the IG rants, before the group split into duos and solo acts, 112 looked unbreakable. 4 brothers, 4 voices, 1 movement. But behind the matching leather jackets and platinum plaques, there were cracks forming, and they ran deeper than fans ever knew.
You know, with groups, it's way harder than what people know.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're dealing with different egos, different personalities. Each person have their own entourage.
One of the earliest signs of trouble came in 2008, when Michael Keith, one of the original 4 members, abruptly left the group. At the time, fans were told it was just a break, something temporary. But according to Michael, what pushed him out wasn't creative differences. It was money. More specifically, it was money he says was stolen from him. Michael claimed that someone within the group had cashed his publishing checks without his permission. Years of earnings gone. And the worst part? It wasn't some outside manager or shady label executive. He said it came from within the camp. Although he didn't say the name publicly at first, everyone had theories. Most eyes turned to Q Parker, who stepped forward to deny any involvement. Q said the allegations weren't true, and he called the situation a misunderstanding. But Michael didn't walk his claims back, and he didn't return to the group either. That was the first real fracture. The Brotherhood had been shaken, and what followed was more silence than music. The group tried to hold things together. They toured in different forms. Sometimes all 4 showed up. Sometimes it was just 3, but something had clearly shifted. Then came the 2018 breakup, the one fans felt the most. That year, Q and Daron Jones officially announced that they were stepping away from 112. This wasn't just about solo projects or different creative paths. According to both men, it was about trust, or the lack of it. In interviews and social media posts, they made it clear they felt blindsided by how business was being handled. There were too many decisions being made behind closed doors, too many lawyers involved, too little transparency. On the other side, Slim and Mike continued performing as a duo, still using the 112 name, now legally owned by Slim. But that only deepened the divide. Fans were confused. Promoters were caught in the middle. Sometimes a flyer would say 112, but only 2 members would show up. Sometimes people bought tickets expecting all 4 and felt cheated when half the group was missing. This tension exploded during the 2020 Versus battle between 112 and Jagged Edge. When the match was announced, fans expected a full reunion. It was the perfect moment, a celebration of R&B history. But only Slim and Mike showed up.
To give a big shout out to Billboard and Revolt and Versus for, giving their own situations. And I mean, pretty much you kind of explained it, you know what I'm saying? That was it.
Q and Daron were missing, and their absence wasn't a coincidence. It was a legal issue, because by then, Slim had already filed for trademark enforcement, and the lawsuits were ongoing. Q and Daron didn't just skip the event. They were legally locked out from appearing under the 112 brand. The group had officially become two teams, Slim and Mike, who held the name, and Q and Daron, who felt shut out of their own history. Then came the petty shots. Slim accused his former groupmates of trying to run the brand into the ground. He said they had already quit twice and were only interested in 112 again once he had locked in the trademark. In one post, he wrote, "Although it's easy to walk away and pick up solo situations or investments, it would be unfair to not at least give a hint about what's going on. A person who is only around me because of a contract ain't worthy of calling me a brother. The Brotherhood was broken in 2003 to 2004. The parties know why." Slim was tired of pretending. He said the bond was gone. The friendships? Fake. And if business was all they had left, then he was handling it accordingly. Meanwhile, Q and Daron made their own claims. They said Slim had become controlling, and that the group wasn't a team anymore. It was just a brand he was trying to own outright. In court documents, they accused him of forming a shell company, filing a fraudulent trademark, and shutting them out financially. They said Slim wasn't just trying to lead the group. He was trying to erase them from it. By 2020, the group wasn't just divided, it was in chaos, and Slim wasn't holding back anymore. After years of legal filings, quiet breakups, and behind-the-scenes tension, Slim finally went public with his side of the story, and he dropped it all on Instagram. No PR filter, no vague messages, just straight-up screenshots, accusations, and emotional confessions. Late one night, Slim posted a long caption that began like a warning shot. "No one is perfect. Trust me, I'm far from it. But it's time to be honest about 112." He wanted fans to know why they only ever saw two members performing, and why the dream of a full reunion might never happen. Alongside the message, he posted screenshots of group text messages between himself and the others. According to Slim, those texts proved everything. They showed Q and Daron had already walked away, that they'd made it clear they didn't want to continue with 112, that they were done. As you see in these texts posted alongside this message, especially the first two, it is very self-explanatory. My text is the last. I'm for the brand. I never left it, never cheated it. Then came the next bomb. Ironically, the same guys who broke the group up before are at it again. Although it's easy to walk away and pick up solo situations or investments, it would be unfair to not at least give a hint about what's going on. Slim accused them of repeating history, walking away from the group whenever things got tough, then coming back only when it was convenient. But Slim didn't stop there. He made it personal. "A person who is only around me because of a contract ain't worthy of calling me a brother. The Brotherhood was broken in 2003 to 2004. The parties know why, and I was honest about where I stand. So stop lying about friendships. It's business. The Brotherhood was broken in 2003 to 2004. To fans, that was confirmation. The split had been brewing for almost 2 decades. Slim accused Q and Daron of lying to fans, disrespecting the brand, and using the 112 name without loyalty. He said they could have stayed. They could have worked things out. But instead, they chose to sue him, the same man who had helped them when they were down bad. For a person to want to sue the same person who helped him when he was at his worst. No, we aren't bros. Be who you are and proud. Don't hide your fangs and rattle. He warned promoters, agencies, and venues. Please don't let them put you in any unnecessary situations with infringement. And then he ended the post with a shot at their silence. It's hard to excuse it when it happens over and over again. Your management lawyer has known you a few years. I've known you most of your life. This wasn't just venting, it was a declaration. Slim wasn't going to pretend anymore. He was done with fake friendships and industry politics. From now on, it was Slim and Mike, and that was it. Slim's legal team had already won a federal ruling, confirming that Slim had the right to use the 112 name. Q and Daron were legally blocked from doing so unless they reached a new agreement. But instead of sitting down and talking it out, the battle just moved from courtrooms to comment sections. Q and Daron never directly addressed Slim's full IG post. But they didn't need to. The damage was done. The group's dirty laundry had been aired publicly by one of its own members, and fans? They were now caught in the middle. Some stood with Slim. They said he had every right to protect the brand he helped build. That if Q and Daron walked away, they gave up their say. Others sided with Q and Daron. They saw Slim as power-hungry, trying to erase the past and rewrite the legacy as his own. And in the middle of it all, the legacy of 112, once one of the most respected groups in R&B, was now nothing but memories. The songs still hit. The vocals still moved people. But the Brotherhood was gone. Long before the lawsuits, social media call-outs, and nasty splits, 112 had already seen what betrayal looked like. And it came from the man who signed them.
Our relationship with Puff may be different from everybody else. We were able to talk to him. And then let me say that
Sean Diddy Combs, founder of Bad Boy Records, was the gatekeeper to 112's rise in the 90s. He gave them the platform, the look, the branding. But according to the group, he also gave them a harsh lesson in how the industry really worked. The warning signs started early. They weren't on stage or in the studio. They happened in the small moments, the stuff fans never saw. In one interview, Mike Keith recalled a moment that stuck with him forever. It was winter in Atlanta, one of the worst snowstorms the city had seen in years. The group had just finished an intense late-night recording session with Diddy that went from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. At that time, Daron and Mike were still in high school. After grinding all night, they had to get home, clean up, and go straight to class. But Atlanta wasn't built for snow. The city was frozen. Roads were icy. Visibility was trash. As they left the studio, they saw Diddy outside, already in his Mercedes-Benz, decked out with chains on the tires, ready to go. And instead of helping them get home safely, Diddy rolled down the window, looked at them, and said, "I'll holler at y'all." Then he drove off into the storm. Mike said they stood there in disbelief. We're like, MF, how do we get home? Moments like that chipped away at the trust early on. Over time, the group began to feel more and more like background players on their own records. Diddy controlled the direction, the image, the rollout. Even though 112 had the vocals, they rarely had the power. They were making hits. Cupid, Only You, Peaches and Cream. But they weren't calling shots. They were just delivering vocals and collecting whatever check showed up. That dynamic created early tension. And when the group's second album dropped, the platinum-selling Room 112, they began asking more questions. They wanted creative control, better pay, a say in the branding, but they weren't getting answers. Eventually, the frustration boiled over. By the early 2000s, the group made a bold move. They left Bad Boy Records and signed with Def Soul, a division of Def Jam. Publicly, it looked like a smart business decision, but behind the scenes, it was a statement. They were done being just another bad boy act. They wanted independence, but freedom came at a price. Once they left Diddy, they lost the machine. No more heavy promo, no more feature-heavy rollouts, no more label pushing their image. And they realized something painful. Without Bad Boy behind them, they had to fight for every inch. The departure caused internal stress too. Not everyone in the group was on the same page about leaving. Some were skeptical. Some felt rushed. Some saw it as necessary. Others saw it as a risk. Those disagreements didn't go away. They lingered. And even though they dropped a few more albums, including Hot and Wet and Pleasure and Pain, things were never quite the same. The tension had set in. And over the years, it only got worse. Slim, who was often seen as the group's quietest member, started stepping forward more, not just as a lead singer, but as a leader. And that shift caused friction. Mike had always handled much of the early group business. Q had a strong fan base. Daron was the group's producer, but Slim was becoming the face. And when the money started getting funny, fingers started pointing. That snowstorm moment with Diddy may have seemed like a one-off back then. But years later, it looked like the first red flag. A sign that this industry was about survival, not brotherhood, not loyalty. While the legal drama with Slim was playing out in public, Daron Jones was fighting a different kind of war, the kind that hits your personal life like a wrecking ball. In 2019, a series of explosive posts surfaced on Lipstick Alley, alleging that Daron had been living a double life for years. It wasn't just cheating. According to the anonymous expose, it was multiple secret relationships, hidden marriages, and children no one knew about. One woman, known only as JB, claimed she dated Daron for years, unaware he was already married with kids. She said he told her lies about being single and raising his daughter alone. The truth unraveled when she got pregnant, only to find out he had a second wife and 2 other kids he never mentioned. It didn't stop there. JB said Daron proposed to her, planned a destination wedding, and even held a vow renewal, all while allegedly still married to another woman named Karen. She accused him of cheating again, this time with his own assistant, and detailed a disturbing incident where an argument led to her falling downstairs while pregnant. The baby survived. Their relationship didn't. Daron never publicly responded, but the damage was done. To fans, it wasn't just messy, it was heartbreaking. The man who once sang about love and loyalty was now at the center of a scandal that felt straight out of a soap opera, and in the eyes of many, Daron's legacy would never be the same. By the time the dust settled, one thing was clear: 112 would never be the same. What started as a brotherhood turned into a business war, and what Slim did, whether you see it as smart or selfish, changed everything. He trademarked the name. He protected the brand. But in doing so, he split the group down the middle. Q and Daron said they were betrayed. Slim said he was preserving what they abandoned. Fans just wanted the music back. But instead, they got court documents and broken silence. The saddest part is that they were all right and all wrong. Q and Daron had left the group before. That's true. Slim did file the trademark legally. Also true. But loyalty isn't just legal, and legacy can't be copyrighted. Even after all the drama, Slim still performs as 112 with Mike. They've released new music, gone on tour, and kept the flame alive. But ask any real fan, it doesn't feel the same. No Daron harmonies, no Q ad-libs, just echoes of what used to be. In 2023, after the passing of 702's Irish Grinstead and a serious car accident involving Jagged Edge's Brandon Casey, Q publicly called for reconciliation. He posted about unity, about letting go of pride, but Slim didn't respond. It wasn't just silence, it was finality. The wounds are deep, the memories are complicated, and the love, if it's still there, is buried beneath contracts, betrayal, and years of silence. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.